Welcome to the Blooming League of Original Podcasts.
And welcome to Talk Musicals to Me, a new theatre podcast about musicals and their impact on people. My name is Caroline Sheen, and I'm here to quiz some of the leading creatives in the entertainment industry about their relationship with musical theatre and how certain musicals may have influenced their lives in ways you may not even expect. From how they first encountered a musical to musicals they may never even have seen, let's dive in and introduce today's guest to open up and talk musicals to me. Now, you know there's a famous musical theatre song, Rodgers and Hammerstein from South Pacific, called There Is Nothing Like a Dame? Well, we've only gone and found a real-life dame for the podcast today, a dame who has well and truly made her mark on the world of musical theatre and dance. She's choreographed some of the most successful and legendary productions of the last 50 years, shows such as We Will Rock You, Saturday Night Fever, Grease, Starlight Express, and the most recent groundbreaking production here in London of Guys and Dolls, where she won her first Olivier for Best Choreography after goodness knows how many years of incredible work in the industry. Away from theatre, she has choreographed for some of the biggest icons in the pop world, including Whitney Houston, Tina Turner, Diana Ross, and Elton John. She had her own dance troupe, which made waves in the 70s and 80s, called Hot Gossip, and she was one of our original judges on Strictly Come Dancing. Not only that, but she was the choreographer of most musical theatre fans' favourite musical movies, Annie. I know you already know who she is, but if you've been living under a rock for the last 50 years, then please let me introduce you to Dame Arlene Phillips. Dame Arlene, please talk musicals to me.
I would love to talk musicals to you. My life feels like it's a musical. So let's go.
Let's go, Arlene. So what I've been trying to do with the podcast is, I've listened to loads of musical theatre podcasts over the years, and they're all fantastic. Look, what I love about them is when people start talking about other musicals as well that have been part of their lives in ways you aren't necessarily involved in working with or being on stage with and stuff like that. So this is kind of a musical theatre podcast about other musicals, not just the ones that you have worked on personally. But obviously, during the questions, we will discover all the brilliant things about your career as well. So shall we get cracking?
I'm ready.
Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Just so everyone knows, it's a bank holiday Monday. Arlene has a day off from choreographing Midsummer Night's Dream at the Bridge Theatre, and she has very, very kindly said she will join us today. I'm absolutely thrilled, and I feel I need to calm down a little bit, so I'm going to calm down and take a deep breath. Arlene, first of all, I have to say thank you to you because you gave me my first job in the professional world of musical theatre. I was 21 and I was still in college, and I got an audition to play Marty in Grease. And that ended up being my first job. And that was one of the brilliant shows you choreographed. I remember actually seeing it a few years previously at the Dominion, and it was on a school trip. And I remember thinking, I am in love with this show. That opening number, that triangle coming down the stage through the smoke, led by Rizzo at the front. I think it's probably the best opening of a production I've ever seen, that opening triangle. And I just never thought I would ever be technically capable of being in that show. And I couldn't quite believe it when I got a part in it. And it was my first job, and it was an absolute thrill. So that's a big thank you to you, Arlene.
Oh, I remember you in the show and how you just smashed Marty in every way, from the way that you would stand in those short trousers, and just everything about you was, I want to be smart. Do you think these glasses make me look smarter? And it was just the way you said that line. I won't forget it. I won't forget that ever.
I loved it. I loved playing her. She was such a fun character to play. She's so ditzy and tries so hard to be something she's not. I just loved her so much. I thought that production was fantastic. So, oh look, my producer just sent me a message saying I'm blushing. I am blushing. That's very kind. Thank you, Ollie.
Oh, how adorable.
So, Arlene, I'm going to jump in with my first question. How did you first meet musical theatre? What was the first musical you ever went to see?
I want to say that the first musical I went to see is the musical that may not have been my first, but the power of it smacked me right in the gut. And for me, that's the biggest, most powerful memory I have, because it changed my life. And that was when West Side Story first came to Manchester from the US with an American cast before it opened in London. And I was standing at the back in the opera house, and I had never seen anything like it. I'd seen musicals, film musicals. My parents used to take me to see them, but nothing impacted me the way that did.
Wow.
When I knew that's the life I want to live, that dance, that storytelling, the moment that it hit me just changed my whole perspective from wanting to be a ballerina.
Oh, wow. So it changed your angle on dance entirely, Arlene.
It changed everything.
Wow.
It changed everything. I'd seen many of the film musicals. My parents loved musicals and I loved them, but I still had that focus. I want to be a ballerina. And then seeing West Side Story, it was life-changing. So for me, it was the first. It was the most powerful moment in my life. And I've never, ever stopped loving that show, because I knew what I was going to do no matter how difficult it was going to be.
Yeah, that your decisions were made watching that show. How old were you, Arlene?
And I was 15.
Wow.
I know that's, a long way from what did you see when you were much younger.
Yeah.
But what I went to see when I was much younger, I loved. I couldn't believe it, but nothing was as real. So yes, at 15, sadly, my mother had passed away and I did not know what life was going to bring or whether I was going to be the ballerina I dreamt of being. But seeing that show, I knew that's what I was going to do. Some way, somehow, however impossible, I was going to do it.
That is the transformative nature and power of good musical theatre, isn't it? That there's somebody out there in the audience who takes something from it so strong and so determined, and that changes their life. I think that's incredible. And what you've done since is just the debt that you owe to West Side Story has been paid off in spades. That's incredible. So what was the first musical you were personally involved with? Did you do any at amateur level or anything like that?
Interestingly, at amateur level, Oldham Rep was allowed to do a version of West Side Story. How, why, when, what, I don't know.
Wow.
So yeah, I actually did get to play one of the Jets in an amateur production, which was really unheard of, because West Side Story to this day, most companies that want to perform have difficulty in getting the rights. But what I want to say about personally involved, again, maybe not the first moment, but involved means that you're giving everything to it. And for me, that was being given the opportunity to choreograph Starlight Express for Andrew Lloyd Webber, because it taught me everything possible about musicals, how far musicals can go. And again, one of those life-changing points in my life. So I have to say, I now know what involvement is. I now know the power, the passion, the ups, the downs, the roller coaster ride that being involved, and I use that word because you've mentioned it, personally involved, how that can take hold and grip you, totally inform your life and where it's going.
That must have been quite an experience, because it was, give me if I'm wrong, but I think it was you, Andrew Lloyd Webber, Richard Stilgoe, I think, wrote the lyrics.
Yes.
And it was Trevor Nunn, wasn't it, who directed it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And the craft that every one of you brought to that stage. I think people give Starlight Express a hard time. I think they it's a story about trains. It's not a story about trains.
No.
It's a really incredible, remarkable feat of theatre. What I love about shows like Starlight Express and shows of cats, it's almost like Olympian levels of human achievement. The fact that you are watching people in lycra being cats and you believe they're cats. When you watch Starlight Express was one of the first shows I ever saw in London. I did a matinee and an evening day with my dad, and I saw Chess in the afternoon and Starlight Express in the evening. And I just remember after about 10 minutes of watching it, you just believe everything you're seeing in front of you. The suspension of disbelief is incredible. And there are people in those costumes doing that, bringing that to the audience. I think it's incredible.
It's trains with life.
Yeah.
And it's interesting also that you've said it didn't really get the credit it deserved. It has opened a production in London.
Yes.
You know, the original production opened in 1984, and incredible. 40 years later, you know, it opens and suddenly it becomes a monstrous hit, although it is a huge hit around the world. And it's now celebrating its 37th birthday in Bochum in Germany in a theatre built for the show.
Wow.
But the truth about that show, it may be people on roller skates, it may be people playing trains, but it has so much heart in it. It's a story of love. It's of achievement. It has so much in it, bound in the music and the lyrics of Andrew Lloyd Webber and Richard Stilgoe. And many of the people I work with to this day, Starlight Express was the first show they saw and the show that made them determine they were going to have a life and a career in musical theatre.
Yeah, it does what West Side Story did for you. You know, I remember watching it and just the buzz, the energy. Oh, I guess the adrenaline that was like pumping through me watching it's so exciting. And how did that come about, Arlene? Where did your involvement with that begin?
It was very strange because I started my career with Hot Gossip, which was a dance group on television. And suddenly, because it was so successful, everybody thinks you can do anything and everything. And I was invited to choreograph a film called Can't Stop the Music in the US with the Village People.
Oh, wow.
Village People were like huge at the time. By the time the film came out, a massive monster film music, huge. Village People had had their day. So it was the most bizarre situation.
Oh, my producer, Arlene, has just messaged me. He's in Australia. Aaron is in Australia. And he's just messaged me saying, You Can't Stop the Music gets played on Aussie network television every New Year's Eve.
No!
At 11 p.m. instead of the fireworks.
How amazing!
It's our campus tradition.
Oh my goodness.
There you go.
Wow. Wow.
I love how random Australia is sometimes. Like Aussie rules and football and all that is crazy.
Yeah, it's so bad. It was great. And there's not often. It's played here, not on television, but in a theatre or a big cinema every year. And, you know, there's a massive, obviously, gay community going to see the film, particularly the naked shower scene, which for some reason missed the censors first time around. But that naked shower scene, how we got away with that, I will never know, in the boys' locker room.
How did I miss this? I need to watch this film so badly.
You must be on YouTube somewhere.
I'm going to find it. It sounds like great fun.
It's hilarious, Caroline. You'll love it.
I love it.
But the film was produced by Alan Carr, who also was the producer of the first film of Grease with Robert Stigwood. And Alan Carr had seen Hot Gossip, invited me to Los Angeles to choreograph this massive film musical where I spent 9 months in the US. It was the most extravagant musical you could imagine.
I'm going to look it up. Surely it's on YouTube or something.
Oh, you must. It's a massive cult musical for the gay community, particularly. It was a campus Christmas, but it bombed because no one cared about the Village People by the time the musical came out. But in the middle of filming, I know this sounds bizarre. I was going to have a 2-week hiatus because I had found myself pregnant when I was starting to make the film. And I had a 2-week hiatus to have the baby.
Stop it.
And then go back to work. And Alan Carr said, I want a roller skating number. I want someone roller skating down the street. Do you roller skate? And I said, no. He said, right, I will get the best teacher in Los Angeles to teach you to skate. So I started to learn to roller skate so I could choreograph the number. Alan Carr came into rehearsals one day and I was my bump and me skating around. And he just casually turned to one of the people he surrounds himself with. Does she have insurance for these skates? And everybody looked at each other and the answer was no. And he was like screaming, get your skates off, get your skates off. So in September 1979, I'd had the baby. I was now going home to London for a month with the baby before I went back to do all the edit on the film. And Andrew Lloyd Webber asked me to come over. We'd been friends because he's a passionate lover of Hot Gossip. And we'd become friends over time and asked me to come and stay at Sidmonton, his beautiful home, for a weekend. And we had breakfast one morning and we were just chatting, idle chit chat. And I was telling him about the baby I had, who I was then holding on my knee at breakfast, and how Alan Carr had, said, no roller skates, get off the skates, and just telling him this crazy story. And 2 years later, he called me up and said, the story you told me at Sidmonton about roller skating, do you roller skate? And I said, well, probably badly, but yes. And he asked me to choreograph Starlight Express. And it all started with a little breakfast story.
Just a breakfast chat over the table.
A breakfast chat. He asked me to do this epic show, which has been a massive part of my life, particularly in London, where it ran for 20 years, and now in Bochum, 37 years. And I've been all around the world putting on Starlight in so many places. I've had a sort of glorious life as well as this incredible show that just lives on and on.
It has the language of dance in Starlight Express. Always fascinates me. I've had a few friends in it over the years, and the carriages and the trains, they're never still, are they? Is it called a tick? Is it called a ticking over?
Yeah, the tick overs.
They all have their own little kind of special movements that they do. When a human would be still, they are doing this tick over.
Yeah, it's like the heartbeat of a train. If a train could have a heartbeat, like we as humans toss and turn in our sleep, we're kind of never entirely still. No. So it's like the trains have these moments where you can see them slow down, movement that you can barely see. It's like breathing, just having enough life for those trains to prepare to ready to go out on the railways again.
And was that something that you came to the table with, or did you notice during rehearsals that needed to be something? Where did that little detail come from?
I think the detail came from how do we make our characters come to life as trains? Where can the humanness of the performer work? And for me, it's like, what do we all do which we don't even think about? That's breathe. So how can we allow the trains, because there's different trains, whether it's steam, electric, diesel, we've all got these different ways that propel us. If we collectively call it breathing, then we just retain some of our physical character, however slow that might be, me just before we stop.
Yeah, I think that's fabulous. It's that level of detail, I think, that brings so much success to the show. It's such a crowd pleaser. I don't know anyone who doesn't like that show. You know, it's enjoyable. It's full of, like you say, heart and energy. But I just think that attention to detail and that level of involvement, like you were saying earlier, that's what elevates it. And that's what has made it run for so long and has kept that going. It's still ticking over, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It is.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I haven't really thought about it in the details. I know why, but actually it just gives life. And I think everything we go to see as people who love musical theatre, it's because when you walk into the theatre, it's the unexpected. You can feel a bubble of excitement, or you may want to say, sit down, show me what you can do. But people walking out of a musical they have fallen in love with, suddenly it's life affirming, the spring in the step, the uplifting exit of an audience is quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
The way people have come in to the way they go out is completely different. They've found that breath of life. They're ready to talk, to sing, to think about what they've seen.
Absolutely. I love how you've said that. The difference between going in and coming out, that change is huge, isn't it? Arlene, let's move on to my next question, which is, which musical, apart from the musicals that you've worked on, have you seen the most? Is there another musical that you're a fan of that you've gone to see lots of times?
Actually, that musical is Hamilton.
Oh, wow.
And it's quite extraordinary the amount of times I've seen it. And I remember being in New York the first time I went to see it, and it must have been 2 months, almost to the day that it had opened. And I remember sitting in my seat. I got one odd seat, and the person to the right and the person to the left wanted to chat. It was exciting because I've never had people turn to me, and the man to my left had seen it. This was his 7th time, and the man to my right, 3rd time. And I thought, what is this musical going to be that people come back again and again and again? And I have seen that musical and I never tire of it. When I saw it, I couldn't even, not that I couldn't make head or tail of it. I could, but I wanted to wrap myself in it.
Yeah.
Once wasn't enough, and twice wasn't enough. There's something about it, the way it moves. There's almost like power coming off the stage. Any production that I've seen, the cast have been immaculate. The detail, the training of those performers to give the performance of a lifetime every time and become a show that I could just bury myself in and never tire of.
It is fantastic, isn't it? I've seen it about 7 or 8 times because my husband played King George in it when it first opened in London. And we actually recently went to see it on the tour as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, even though I've seen it so many times and I know it well, because obviously even before that, we used to have the soundtrack on all the time. Every time I see it, I discover something new about it. It's so dense. There is so much information on that stage.
Yes.
Or I follow a different dancer through their track. And the storytelling through dance and song in it is immaculate, I think. And the focus, there's never a time, and Michael always says this, he noticed it in rehearsals, that Andy Blankenbuehler, who choreographed it, just really knows how to focus the choreography so that the audience knows where they're looking at all times, knows where that story is taking you all the time.
Yes, Andy Blankenbuehler actually played one of the faces in Saturday Night Fever on Broadway, and we became very, very, very close and still are.
No way! Oh, fabulous.
Again, you're right. His storytelling, the line, every single performer, and the impact that show has, extraordinary as it is. When I came back from that very trip, when I first saw it from New York back to London, I was on an overnight flight and I arrived and got off the plane, and everyone was standing around waiting for their luggage, you know, bleary-eyed. And there was a man with 2 children, and the 2 children were moaning, groaning, "They're tired, Daddy, we're tired." And Daddy said, "Okay, all together now. Alexander Hamilton, come on, come on, come on." And he was standing waiting for the luggage, making those kids sing the song to energize them, to be able to pick up their luggage and move. Two sleepy kids.
Wow.
And I just thought, wow, that is the impact of musicals.
Yeah.
You're using it as a force in something where you never expect.
Yeah.
And I loved that moment. It was like a beautiful circle round from me having seen that musical and then somebody taking that rhythm and using it to walk the kids to wake them up.
To get through the day.
Yeah.
It's quite remarkable with Hamilton how it permeated the world so quickly. I don't know if anything's done that since maybe Rent.
Oh, yes.
I think maybe that was the time before where that kind of hit a generation and knocked it off its feet.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Isn't it exciting when you sort of see that happen, especially when it's the genre that you work in? You're like, wow, it's gone beyond musical theatre popular. It's gone into the conversation. You see people talk about it on sitcoms and stuff, you know?
Yes, constantly. Absolutely. And that's what is exciting in musical theatre is it's life affirming.
Yeah. Yeah. Which musical? I'm going to go on to my next question, Arlene. Which musicals have made you laugh the most and cry the most?
Crying is a big thing with me. The musicals that never fail to make me cry are Cabaret, without question, and Sound of Music.
Oh, wow. Yes.
I cannot watch either of those musicals where I don't cry.
Yeah.
Laugh, not so much. Weirdly, I'm not a big fan of musicals that deliberately have numbers in to make you laugh.
Yes.
For some reason, that never works for me.
Yeah.
I admire the brilliance of many musicals, many numbers that are there to make you laugh, but somehow I'm always watching the technique and never being able to sit with the laughter.
Yes.
It's how do they do this?
Yeah, I totally understand that.
Do you? Oh, good. Because I feel like that's really odd.
Yeah, no, I agree. And interestingly, you're the second choreographer we've had on the podcast. I spoke to Jerry Mitchell on my last recording, and he sort of said the same thing, that musicals don't really make him laugh. He said a play made him laugh far more than musicals. And I do wonder sometimes whether, because it's our work, because it's what we do, maybe that's why we don't maybe let ourselves go in the audience as much as other audience members, because we are watching the technique. We're aware of the cogs going on behind the scenery and everything else. And maybe it's more of a busman's holiday than we think.
It's interesting. Yes, I love to watch the craft, and particularly because, again, when you actually have to choreograph comedy, I mean, for me, I think so much about it. What will make people laugh? What can make it perfect? You can't put a hat on a hat, so you can't do two bits that don't work and smoothly. And I think it's because I'm always looking for the craft. I'm always looking to learn, but never just sitting back, allowing the comedy to do its work.
I get that totally. I do laugh at shows, but I understand why, like you say, it doesn't necessarily stay with me.
Yeah. Last year, I did a very small musical called I Wish You Well.
Oh, yes.
Based on the Gwyneth Paltrow trial at Edinburgh Festival. And the reason I did it, I was not going to do it, was Paul Taylor Mills producing it said, I'm going to run it with the company. Will you just sit down and come and let me go through the whole thing? It's 1 hour. So I said, okay. I went in. I was laughing till I cried. Absolutely hysterical. I said, I will do this without question.
Brilliant.
And it was just so unusual because all the way through, the comedy ran through it.
Yes.
And it was my kind of humor.
I think that's the thing, isn't it? There are so many different kinds of humor out there that there's loads of comedians that don't make me laugh. And then there are some that really make me howl.
Yes.
It's one of those things you can't cater to everybody, I think, when it comes to humor.
Yeah. And you never know what's going to make you laugh, but suddenly you're laughing.
Yes.
And it's usually a throwaway moment for me.
Yeah. Something that surprises you.
Yeah.
And so with regards to Cabaret and The Sound of Music then, where do you think the emotions come from for you with those shows?
Oh, I think Cabaret cabaret, maybe this time, even just saying the words could make me cry.
Yeah.
And particularly, you know, having seen the new cabaret a number of times, and Marisha Wallace had me in floods. So that always has an impact on me. And The Sound of Music, Climb Every Mountain, again, a moment that's so powerful, and everything in that musical that's going to be hard. And that song, I think, takes you to places, memories, maybe of lives of others, stories you know about, you know, going into the terrible, terrible things that happen in Nazi Germany. Without fail, again, sometimes musicals that touch me can affect me being anywhere or sitting anywhere or any moment. You know, sometimes you hear something that makes you sad and you want to cry, but actually what you're crying for is all those things inside you that just make your tears fall.
Yeah, that connect with something and engage with those emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm going to confess to you, Arlene, that I have never seen a professional production of West Side Story. I haven't had that experience that you had when you were 15, and I regret that hugely. And I will. Next time there's a professional production, I'm going, and I'm saying that now.
Oh, absolutely. You must.
I absolutely will. And is there a musical that you regret that you didn't see?
I have always wanted to see The Wiz.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that version of Ease on Down the Road.
Amazing.
I want to see The Wiz. I really do.
It's a great score, isn't it? And such a fabulous vibe. I don't remember ever sort of hearing about it being on over here. I feel like it happens in America a lot.
Yeah.
They don't share it over here.
There was a production and I can't remember where it was done. I didn't get to see it, I know. But there was a small production, definitely done Shepherd's Bush or Hammersmith.
Yeah.
In Hammersmith, I think it was. And I'm feeling it might have been choreographed by Anthony Van Laas, but this is all guesswork.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been on once, but I didn't get to see it. But that's a show I want to be sitting in a big Broadway theatre.
Yes.
And watching The Wiz on stage.
Getting the full vibe of the audience. I think sometimes that's one of the most important things, isn't it? Is actually being in the audience, talking to other people that are sitting next to you, finding out why they're there. That buzz, even before the show has started, can sometimes really put you in the right place to enjoy a show.
Yeah.
And I do love going to see intimate theatre as well. But I think when you're in an audience that's full of people all having that shared experience with you, that vibe is indescribable, really.
Absolutely. There's nothing like it. And that's why I resent so much the disruption of shows.
Yeah.
You know, we have these big shows, and the weekends sometimes for so many people are destroyed by people shouting over it or shouting at each other. I resent that because the one thing about being in the theatre is when the whole theatre is allowed to love what they're seeing together.
Yeah.
It's like this mass movement of joy, this mass movement of expression. I think it's important that we respect theatre. We're lucky to have musical theatre in our lives.
We really are. You're right. When there is disruption in the audience, that can sometimes be what you go away remembering from the night rather than the show. You know, it sort of upstages everything, doesn't it? And that will be across the board for the whole audience.
Yes.
The audience etiquette is always a struggle, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's important. And also for the actors on stage, no one knows quite, should we stop? Should we continue? Everyone's in a state of flux.
Yeah, I've only had it a couple of times. Once on Grease, actually. I went back into Grease when it was at the Victoria Palace as Sandy. And there was a rowdy hen party in. And I think the police were called. And in the interval, they were like escorted out of the theatre. It was quite a drama.
Yeah.
They were like shouting out all the lines before we were saying them and singing along at the top of their voices. And the rest of the audience in the interval kind of all, as they were being escorted out, all the audience were going out, 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 out.
Joining. Yeah, crazy, isn't it?
It was like high drama.
Yeah.
Far more drama going on in the stalls than there was on the stage, I think.
I know. We've had 2 productions of the new Grease, the updated Grease, at the Dominion 2 years running. And oh my gosh, you just never knew what was going to happen, which unlike the original Grease that was there was never any disruption. And here we were in the night after night sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't it crazy?
It's changed.
Especially with the amount of money people spend on tickets. You know, it's an investment going to see a show.
I know.
And to then sort of ruin it.
Yeah.
Crazy. So speaking of the interval, Arlene, we're going to have a quick break now and go to a little advert. And then we'll be back with the final few questions afterwards, if that's okay.
Yep.
Thanks, Arlene.
G'day listeners, another show you can find on the Bloop network is Thrash and Treasure, where legendary artists from Broadway, West End, Hollywood and beyond deep dive into 2 seemingly opposite genres of music, heavy metal and musical theatre. From Tony winners to reality TV contestants, hear a vast range of iconic guests learn about genres of music they've never been exposed to. With over 130 episodes, there's bound to be a silly, sassy and insightful conversation that'll have you reaching for the leather pants and hairspray. And here is a sneak peek. We're back with Thrash and Treasure. I'm Aaron, and that's Mr. J-Wags, and we're having a true daily double with the amazing Margaret Cho. I am absolutely jumping with joy to have you join us, especially since you have been on the publicity train, something chronic lately, with your latest album, Lucky Gift.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Another great album of Californian jams with a chill yet sometimes humorous vibe. So are we going to get an Aussie tour in the near future, please?
I hope so.
Thanks.
You know, I would really love to. I haven't been in such a long time, and it's one of the places that I just absolutely love going, and I've had my best shows there. And, you know, I was supposed to go during the pandemic. That was like one of the tours that was supposed to happen that didn't happen. And then since then, it's just been really kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm definitely due.
Yeah, because you were the Grand Marshal of our famous gay and lesbian Mardi Gras parade.
Yes. It is very big. Like Mardi Gras is so huge in a global way. Like, so people are coming not just from Australia, but they're coming from all over the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really special event. So yeah, I think of it more as a global event than I actually do an Australian event because it's so massive. I've never actually been to Melbourne Pride.
Oh, haven't you?
I haven't.
Oh, there you go. We've got Midsummer.
Yeah, which I need to do because Melbourne as a city is more gay than Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Block for block, street for street.
Yes.
More gay, I believe.
I wholeheartedly agree.
I would just love to know the sociological website you get that information from. It's like, let me figure out exactly how gay New South Wales is as opposed to different parts.
Have you seen what I'm wearing?
Yeah, yes. But Melbourne is more like espresso martinis and lesbians and...
Okay.
Melbourne is like, to me, it's like Courtney Barnett. That's what I think of Melbourne, you know, it's that kind of vibe. Sydney is like very manicured men who are really like just with the really beautiful buff bodies and like on Bondi Beach and getting tan and getting lotion put on their bodies. That's to me, it's like a very athletic, it's very decadent. It's about physical beauty. It's about athleticism.
Yep.
Whereas Melbourne is more about art.
Yes.
And caffeine.
Yes.
And transgression.
Mm-hmm.
And politics. That's just my outsider's view.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. You can't throw a rock in Melbourne without hitting a busker, basically. Well, you used to. I don't know what it's like now because people.
Well, I'm delighted to be able to talk to you. First of all, been a huge fan for years. Also, I'm a NorCal boy myself from way back, and I work currently at Second City as a music director, and so it's just I'm very fascinated with people who have who sort of span the line between music and comedy in this very specific way. There are a lot of similarities between like writing and touring an our original comedy, but also writing and touring an album must be a completely different yet similar sort of skill set and challenge. So what do you think the large differences between crafting an hour of comedy, the similarities and differences between crafting that and then touring an album of your own original pop songs?
with the music, I'm still reliant on other musicians to bring it all to life. So, I play and sing, but I really prefer to bring along a band, so it becomes very expensive and it's very different. Whereas a comedian, like I can just go anywhere and I don't have to carry anything. I don't have to bring anything. There's no sound check. It's so easy to be a touring comedian. But whenever I've gone on tour with music, it's more of a production, which is great too, but it's just you have more things in place. I like both tremendously, but currently, like I'm just doing stand-up comedy on tour, and I've to sort of see like for this album, this past album, some of the production was a little bit higher, so I would need a bigger band if I went on tour. So that's something that I have in mind.
Yeah, I did notice that the production of the album, because I listened to all three sort of music albums just to see that progression, and I noticed that,
Welcome back to the second half of Talk Musicals to Me with Dame Arlene Phillips. I still can't quite believe I'm saying that. Thank you for joining us for the second half, Arlene.
Pleasure.
Now, my first question of Act 2 is, if you were in charge of a school, which musical would you choose to be on the school curriculum?
Well, where do I start? Which schools are going to put on a musical in this day and age? Sadly, I can't imagine it.
That's the thing. Yeah.
But I think a great musical, and a musical that would be fabulous in school, truly is Guys and Dolls.
Yes.
I feel that we should understand and look what's behind Guys and Dolls and look at the Hotbox Girls. Now, the Hotbox Girls were girls who maybe couldn't get into the Rockettes.
Right.
They were not the look, but it was people who wanted to dance, people who had to find a way to dance. So they went to a club like the Hotbox Club to dance in a club, not what they dreamed of. The desire for movement, for dance, sent them into working towards what was an underground club. And also the crap shooters. We're talking here about gambling. We're talking about living to win or lose your life.
Yeah.
Playing a game. And it is a lesson in think about it. Think about what gambling is and what gambling means. It does not mean you will win. It means you could lose everything. And I think there's so many kind of ugly life lessons brought out in a way that makes you think about life.
Yeah.
And I think it's a musical that has depth and storytelling that is good for young people to learn that life isn't always a bed of roses.
Oh, absolutely. It's based on the Damon Runyon books, isn't it? The Guys and Dolls.
Yes.
Because a lot of the things that they talk about in Guys and Dolls are real places, aren't they? Like Mindy's Cheesecake and all that sort of thing.
Mindy's, yeah.
Was the Hot Box an actual place, Arlene?
No, it wasn't. It was
based on something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The club where people went to dance, people that went to be entertained, and the girls were poorly paid within these similar clubs to basically to perform for the guys that were watching.
Yeah. If anyone didn't see this production of Guys and Dolls that Arlene recently did, it was done in such a way that the audience were able to walk around the space, really. And it was like you were in New York. It was incredibly immersive. And for me, the Hotbox Girls were such a beacon of light in that show. It's almost like they were the glitz, really, weren't they? They were the glamour.
Yes.
But then you see the seedy side of life as well. And it's interesting how you chose to play that. Like, they were very strong women, I thought. Whereas sometimes I've seen it done, I think like maybe the previous, or maybe not even the previous one of the London productions I've seen it. The Hotbox Girls, the way they played it was like they do this every night. They're really bored. Everybody was sort of a bit sort of on their back feet, which I thought was an interesting choice as well.
Yes.
It must be a really difficult thing to approach a musical that has been done so many times and to be able to find something in it for you to bring yourself to, you know, your unique talent, to choreograph that, to make those choices of those characters.
What's important is Nick Heitner, who is such such a brilliant director, had decided when doing Guys and Dolls that the impact it would have is the power that was instilled in all of the women in that show. Whereas the original and initial show is the women didn't have the power. It was all by the men. But in this production, which is why I think it's in schools, to take that idea that today we as women are empowered to do what we want to do, what we believe in, and add to that this control. Not be the little woman as was in the 50s, the 40s, all of that time where women were considered to be beneath, but to be equally as powerful, and understanding that obviously it's not like a little kids show, it's for teenagers, people that need to think about where we are today. And you may be going back in time, but if you instill it with the power that we as women today say, we own us, we own our bodies, we have our say.
And we stand on the shoulders of those women, don't we, who were fighting in the 50s for more equality and stuff. And I know it's a much more difficult time for women back then, but if they hadn't taken the stands that they did, would we be fighting more now or less? I think it's important to sort of nod to that history as well.
Absolutely. And it's such a wonderful show. And the most extraordinary thing for me is people that came back again and again and again. I mean, we had people that came 70 times, 68 times, all on that final night were there. All of the people that had never stopped seeing the show. And interestingly, why I suggest this show, which has a lot of difficult things as gambling and how people can be swept up in gambling, it has difficult stories to tell. But when people walk out of that theatre, the number of people that came back again and again was for their own mental health, for their own way of feeling uplifted, for their own way of taking control and charge of what you do for yourself. And I think that's why it's a show where people think, where people believe, where people gain strength and life affirmation.
What I love about the people that come back over and over again is that they've clearly found something that they really strongly connect to. And that's a big thing with Starlight Express, isn't it, as well?
Yes.
In Germany, the fandom of Starlight Express is humongous. I remember watching a film called Repeat Attenders. I don't know if you've seen it.
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh, yes.
And there's one woman on there who is like a huge Starlight Express fan. And then it turns out that she's been disappointed in life because she wasn't allowed to follow her dream. It's a remarkable film because it follow her over a few years and you're following other people who are interested in other shows. And at the end, her daughter is at musical theatre college in Germany.
Yes.
And I remember bawling my eyes out just seeing her daughter's dream, and she's allowing that, whereas she was stifled, she wasn't allowed to follow that dream.
Yeah. And you're right. In Germany, people come back again and again and again.
Yeah.
They return so many times. It's a safe place for them to sit, and they know that within that experience of watching the show that they will walk out and it will feel like they're walking on air.
It's a bit like I recently went to a big theme park over here, and the buzz that you get, and people go to theme parks all the time, don't they? That enjoyment, and you're on a ride with loads of other people and you're all screaming, you're all clapping, you're all frightened at the same time. It's all joining that journey together.
Yeah. Well, it's like the fair, isn't it? The fair that comes as near to them as possible. And every time the fair comes, Easter and Christmas or wherever, you return to get that pleasure, something that can give you that instant affirmation.
Watching an interview with you, Arlene, where someone was asking you about your Olivier when you won the Olivier for Guys and Dolls, and you mentioned that it's not really about the awards. You said because so many of your shows have been crowd pleasers and not necessarily the ones that have been critically acclaimed by the academics,
Yeah.
What is your take on that? Why do the awards go to the musicals that are thought of as being arty? Why do the crowd pleasers get ignored?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Sometimes I feel like crowd pleasers or musicals, jukebox musicals, which audiences pour to. I mean, they love the familiarity of taking music they love, and there it is, all in one go, one night, hearing all your favorite songs. And I think there's something that's slightly frowned upon because they're not new creations. Look, Saturday Night Fever, We Will Rock You, the shows that I've done, they are jukebox musicals.
Huge hits, though, you know.
Massive, massive hits worldwide, because sometimes people feel like going to something that they know is like sitting in a warm bath. It just makes you feel good. So they're ready to go and see them. And somehow many of those musicals are questioned because they're not new music, but others are never questioned. Mamma Mia, which is the most incredible musical jukebox you could imagine. But how wonderful it is to hear those songs with this story attached. It's just a joy.
It really is. It really is. I'm going to try a new question on you now, Arlene.
Oh, yes.
Is there a musical out there that you think, oh, that would be nice to see that again? Apart from The Wiz, obviously.
Well, this is something that I often think about. And one of my favorite musicals, and I'm passionate about it, was something I had never seen until the pandemic, when I was about to go into the castle to do I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And we were isolated. See, we had no newspapers, no television. The only thing that we had on our TVs was Netflix. And I saw Tick, Tick, Boom.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. I have fallen in love with that musical. I haven't seen it live. I haven't even seen anywhere that it's on. But that musical is phenomenal.
It really is.
Truly phenomenal.
And it speaks to us, doesn't it? Because it's about the creation of a musical as well.
Oh, yes.
So it's something we really engage with.
Yes, and the difficulties and the sorrow, but it's phenomenal. I think it should be on in theatres all over the world.
Yeah, I remember watching that in lockdown as well. I need to watch that again. I just remember spotting all the different sort of musical theatre creatives in there, you know.
Yeah.
I think even Stephen Schwartz is in one of the, I think they're sort of presenting the musical to people, and Stephen Schwartz is sitting there, and I think there's like Stephen Sondheim's on a voice note or a voicemail at some point.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Very much so. So that I would love to see.
Yeah.
I can't imagine why that isn't on in the West End and on Broadway.
They did it years ago at the Chocolate Factory.
Oh.
Really early days of the Chocolate Factory, I think, before they did Sunday in the Park with George.
Oh my gosh.
It's only a 3-hander on stage. It's just 3 people.
It's tiny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they expanded it brilliantly on the film. Oh yeah, I loved it. Loved it.
My next question, I think you probably answered with your first answer. Is there any musical which inspired you to make a strong choice in your life? Probably West Side Story, Arlene, do we?
It really is West Side Story.
Yeah.
It really is. Power of that musical. And I still have, you could buy the libretto in a little book. And upstairs in my house is that book, looking much the worse for wear, but I'll never part with it.
Oh, wow.
Ever, because I used to read the lyrics and sing the songs to myself, the lines, the words. Yeah.
Amazing.
For me, it's truly the most wonderful of musicals.
Are there some rules attached to the licensing of West Side Story? Is there a reason why we haven't had an Arlene Phillips West Side Story yet?
They have done different versions. It was the rights ran for 50 years. So for 50 years, you could not do that musical unless it was the original musical with the original choreography.
Yeah.
But now it has been done. There was a wonderful production at Leicester Curve.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there are other productions now, and you can apply for the rights, because I don't think you can hold rights longer than 50 years.
Right. So there's a bit more freedom allowed with it now, isn't there?
Yeah.
I think like with that and Chorus Line as well, there are some sort of rights issues where you have to do, if it's a professional production, I might be totally wrong, don't quote me, but I think they would like you to do the original Michael Bennett choreography and Chorus Line as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it changes because of the layout of the theatre. Sometimes you have to do different choreography.
Yeah.
So thinking about West Side Story, I guess, and then other musicals, what do you think is the secret to a good musical?
Well, I'm going with Andrew Lloyd Webber here, who has always said that in terms of musical theatre, the sound of music is the perfect musical.
Wow.
And when you think about it, it has so much because it has going on a journey. It has complete life-changing effect on the family. The storytelling is so powerful and impactful, and there's not a moment you can sit back and relax because something is always happening. It's on the move. It never ever lets you stop and just relax. You're on the edge of your seat, and I think it fulfills completely the perfect musical theatre creation.
I love it.
Ever.
I love Sound of Music. I love the fact that you can grow up alongside it. Because, you know, when I was a little girl, I'd watch Sound of Music and I'd be like, oh, I want to be Gretel. I want to be Gretel. And then, you know, a few years later, I was like, oh, I'd like to be Brigitte now, please. And then obviously it was Liesel, then Maria. And then I guess after a while, I was like, oh, I think I probably have to be the bitchy old countess or else baroness. And I think I'm going to be lumped with one of the nuns next, I expect.
Oh, yeah.
I think when you have such a strong protagonist as that wonderful character of Maria in The Sound of Music, the way that she changes all of those children's lives, everybody she comes across, she impacts and changes.
Yes.
I think what a great idea for a musical to follow somebody like that.
And the beauty of Maria when she falls in love with the captain, the moment of togetherness when they're escaping, the way they work hand in hand to plot the escape, the family, the children. It has everything that touches your heart, that can break your heart.
Yeah.
But also the moment at the end when they've escaped, as you see the family, and the moment where they're looking to their freedom will get me every single time.
And you've got Climb Every Mountain going on in the background as well. And it's such an anthem, isn't it? And the songs in it, the music, the craft behind it, I think is immaculate. There's not one thing that's out of place in there. And I mean, it must be quite a beast of a show to put on.
Oh, yes.
Arlene, because you did it right. You did it at the Palladium. It was your show.
At the Palladium, yes. And then we managed to take it on tour and still with that incredible scenic design, continue it on tour for a long, long time. Yes, that is such a powerful, powerful musical.
And yet, ensemble-wise, they don't get much to do they? So I remember I did it in Amdram when I was younger.
Oh, yeah.
I was Brigitte. I loved playing that part.
Oh, I love Brigitte.
She's gobby, isn't she? I like Brigitte.
Yeah.
She has opinions. She's not afraid to say them.
Yeah. Of the kids, the little ones that come in to The Sound of Music, they all wanted, the little babes wanted, the Gretels wanted to all play Brigitte. So they often came back again.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Because you can only have them for a certain length of time. So it was this little kids who were growing up on it. So adorable.
But I just remember the ensemble, or the chorus as we call them in my amateur dramatic society. They were so bored because they'd had so little to do. Because it's actually quite bizarrely quite a small cast for a musical, even though it has such worldwide impact, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a big musical with a small cast.
Yeah, and a lot of heart.
Yeah.
So my final question is, which musical out there feeds your soul, Arlene? Which one do you find like the most nourishing for Arlene? If she's like having a bad day, what musical does she put on to listen to or to watch or buy a ticket for?
I've thought a lot about this. I found it very hard to pick one because I love musicals. I'm going to say a really odd one. I was in Edinburgh at the Edinburgh Festival and I managed to get one seat, the very last seat, to see this little musical called Six, which at the time was performed by the students in Cambridge and created by Toby and Lucy as a little musical.
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on this one seat and being totally carried away by this musical. And I loved the music. I wanted to see it again and again. I couldn't. It was totally sold out in Edinburgh. I then started seeing it in different productions as it progressed.
Yeah.
And that music, for me, I can put it on. I can listen to it hour after hour, to watch it grow to be one of the biggest musicals performed around the world in however many countries by two young students kind of having a go. I just think is incredible. Yeah. And I never tire of those songs. Never, ever, ever.
I'm so impressed that you were there in Edinburgh. We had George Stiles on the podcast and he was saying he couldn't get to Edinburgh and he saw it when it went back to Cambridge. And that's when he got in touch with Kenny Wax and started making the moves to take it to London. So how was that experience in Edinburgh for you? Had you heard about it? Were people going, oh, you've got to go and see this musical?
Alex Armstrong had talked to me about it in odd places. And I didn't really know a thing about it other than I went back to Edinburgh the following year and watched it in its next much bigger venue. And then it came to London, another small venue. And I've watched it grow and I've been there time after time after time, invited by Kenny or Toby to come and see it. I remember sitting next to Toby the second time I saw it. I hadn't even realized he was the writer and he introduced himself to me. And from that moment, we bonded. And I just have felt this incredible attachment to it because I was there when it really was just a tryout. And actually, it hasn't changed much. Yeah, costume changed, this bit's changed, but overall, it was there.
Yeah, the piece was ready, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it's everywhere. And for two young people to create this incredible experience that when you talk about musicals from 5 to 95, that's a musical. There is not an age that wouldn't enjoy that musical.
I love that you said that because that's actually one of the things that George Stiles said about it. He said he was in a room of people who were under 25. They were all having an incredible time, but he didn't feel patronized. He didn't feel talked down to. He didn't feel like he didn't get the jokes. He felt like he was spoken to as well. And it just connects across the generations, doesn't it? My parents love it. My parents have seen it twice, I think. And I love how, a little bit like Hamilton, every time I listen to it even, I catch a different lyric because I love my Tudor history. Everything about it is really accurate and it's speaking to this generation of people today, you know?
But whole families can go,
you
know, across the board. Whole families can go and just enjoy and listen to the history of it. And you think how many performers have an opportunity. Often it's a first show for a lot of students coming out of college, and the number of places it's on worldwide just grows and grows and grows. And it's an hour and 15 minutes. And you will have one of the best hour and 15 minutes in your lifetime watching that show.
I totally agree, Arlene. It's joyous, isn't it? And I think, like you say, you speak from seeing these two young kids write something so early on in their lives and their careers. Where are they going to go from here? I know they've had their second show out recently. I think when you see something that clever and when you're in this industry, it's so inspiring. And the hope that it gives you for the future of musical theatre is also really important and special as well.
Isn't it just? Yes. Yes, we need future creators.
We do.
Let's start with Toby and Lucy because they're on the path.
Absolutely.
They're on the path.
Speaking of the future, Arlene, what's next for you? I know you're rehearsing Midsummer Night's Dream now. Have you got anything else coming up you can tell us about?
I do. I'm actually... This is crazy and bonkers and wonderful. But because I had such a good time in Edinburgh working on I Wish You Well, which we're now getting offers to for it to go further, I'm doing another completely bonkers show at Edinburgh Festival this year called Footballers' Wives, based on the notorious Sky Television Footballers' Wives series.
Yes. Oh, wow.
So I love working on small musicals that have this very, very kind of odd title for a musical. But yeah, that's what I'm doing next.
Exciting. Oh, best of luck with it, Arlene.
Thank you.
I would love to come up to Edinburgh. I need to do that. I haven't done it for years, so I need to do that.
Oh, it's so fun.
That'll be on my list of things to go and see. And thank you so much for joining us today on your day off from Midsummer Night's Dream. It's hugely appreciated.
It's been an absolute Absolute pleasure, Caroline. Absolute pleasure.
What a lovely, lovely time I've had talking to you. Thank you, Arlene.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Thank you so much for listening today. This has been Talk Musicals to Me for the Bloop Network. My fabulous producer is Aaron Ware, and the music you heard is from the pen of the sublime Tom Self. If you get a moment, please subscribe or follow and rate the podcast by clicking the stars below on the podcast page. It takes about 2 seconds to do, and it will really help the podcast and its future life, and would make us massively, eternally, enormously grateful. In the meantime, another huge thanks for tuning in, and please do so again next time to see who will be next up to Talk Musicals to Me.